Welcome back to the Delivering More platform, folks. I'm your host, Ben Alkire. Thank you so much for your continued viewership, morning, afternoon, and evening. We appreciate it. As always, if you could, hit that subscribe button down below. That's going to help us out more than you could ever know. I have another fantastic episode to get into for our Meet the Team series. I have with us the Director of Product for DeliverThat, Matt Pavkov. Better.
Yes.
We got it right.
That's it.
Okay. Now we're rocking and rolling.
We're ready.
You got a little drive from Cleveland to Canton today?
Yeah.
Down 77. What's your route?
All the way down. So it's 77 straight south. Got to pass through Akron, but
Was it, I mean, you didn't come down till you probably left around 11-ish. So
yeah,
it was a little
I had another appointment this morning. So I actually came from Westlake today.
Okay.
So a little bit longer, but yeah. Traffic wise, yeah, it like normal, not too bad.
Yeah.
Not too
I
bad.
think they're in the middle of the day. It's not too bad. Maybe
No.
like morning and then around 5
Yeah.
o'clock, a little chaotic.
Yeah. Well, you're still going against rush hour traffic though.
Right.
So it's like in my past life, I would go with rush hour, which the drive was time wise, it would take as long to go from, like kind of the Norton Barberton area up to downtown Cleveland as it now takes to go from Cleveland down to Canton, which is a much longer drive. It's like an extra 15, 20 miles.
Yeah.
But same time though, because of the traffic.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I wanna kick things off here. We missed out doing this a couple of times with some other individuals we've had in the past, but I want to make sure we get a little this or that going, get a little warm up, get the vibes high, get us nice and ready for a good conversation here. So we'll start out with a little this or that with Matt Pavkov. I'm gonna give you two options. Pick one or the other. We'll see what transpires from there. Okay? Sure. All right. So we'll start out. Are you an early morning person or late nights?
Late nights.
How late?
Not as late as it used to be, but after midnight.
Okay.
Yeah, bedtime between like 12 and 1 normally.
And then are you still waking up like 5,
8?
6, 7,
No,
8? Okay.
no.
All
I can't do that anymore. I still aim for at least 7 hours of sleep.
Okay.
So somewhere in there, but I'll adjust it back a little bit if I have to be up earlier than normal. But otherwise,
I'm about the same.
Yeah.
Fall asleep around 11 midnight.
Yeah.
7:30, 8 a.m. wake up.
like I just became. I think I was like that even when I was younger, but over the years I've just kind of stuck with the still kind of after midnight, not like 2 or 3 a.m. anymore. But definitely a nighttime person. I've always enjoyed the night the most.
Yeah, I agree. What about dogs or cats?
Oh, that's a hard one. I'm gonna have to go with cats. I have to pick one, so I'm gonna go with cats. I grew up with dogs, so half my life with dogs and now half my life with cats. So it is kind of a toss up. But since cats are the thing right now, then I'll go with cats. I don't have one myself, but my mom and brother have a cat. But
fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. What about in your leisure time? Would you prefer a book or a movie?
Yeah, that's another toss up for me. I'm gonna go with movie, but I do enjoy reading. I don't read many books right now, but just generally I do read a lot. But yeah, I'll go with the movie.
Okay. Will keep your attention a little better, or
Yeah, I mean both keep my attention. I think if I'm really trying to relax, I tend to enjoy watching TV or a show or a movie more. Than reading. Reading to me is still usually it's the content that I'm reading. Like I'm reading things that are a bit heavier.
Right.
So if I'm looking to actually really kick back, like watching something.
Yeah, like when you're reading, it's like maybe educational value. Like you're trying to catch up on some things, so you gotta focus a little more.
I'm either trying to learn something or I'm trying to get caught up on something.
Yeah.
A lot, or it's just nonfiction in general.
Okay.
So I used to read more fiction, but not these days.
Okay. On a road trip, would you rather be the driver or the passenger?
The driver.
Quick.
Yeah. I mean, I do enjoy driving. I've driven a lot to work for one. In past life, driven across the country a couple times, road trips, all of that. Like I enjoy being out on the road. I enjoy driving. It is nice to be a passenger to have a break so you can sleep or whatever. But yeah, no, I like the driving.
Okay. In terms of communication, call or text?
it matters why. The context really matters, but I'm going to go text message. Like, I'm definitely not calling people unless it's needed. So default would definitely be text messaging.
Okay. How about this? Is actually, I've never asked these next two to anyone, so this
Great.
will be interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how you'll feel. But I'm not really big on either of these, but I think it's an interesting question to ask. And I'm not sure how to even preface it, so we'll just shoot it out.
Okay.
Karaoke or dancing?
Oh God, neither. uh, Dancing.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done both. But yeah, I don't want to do either. if I can help it, I would rather do neither. But I would definitely rather dance. If I'm gonna do one, it'd be dancing would be easier, less embarrassing than karaoke.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm not big on either.
Yeah.
I thought it'd just be interesting to ask. I know a lot of people here in the office are big on karaoke.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm the furthest thing from a dancer, but I also I'm like the embarrassment level of karaoke is like,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Last one, and then we'll get into a couple favorites I wanted to ask you. This will be the last this or that though. Vanilla or chocolate?
Vanilla.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cake, ice cream, the whole.
Yeah,
all of
I
it?
mean, I do enjoy chocolate for sure, but yeah, for ice cream, for cake, milkshakes, like I definitely go with vanilla. And just, I mean, really just in general, like baking and so on. Like I would say vanilla is probably the leader. I do like chocolate though, but yeah, vanilla.
Okay. I appreciate the decisiveness. A couple quick ones I just wanted to run down, see what we could get out of you. I know we picked movies for books or movies, but
Yeah.
do you have a favorite movie of all time?
Oh geez. No.
No,
I couldn't. No, I can't. I couldn't pick one movie. I couldn't even
give
pick
me like a couple. You got a couple?
a couple movies that I really enjoy. I mean, I really enjoy the Lord of the Rings series
Great.
and the Harry Potter series.
Great.
Like, you know, but like picking that and saying that's better than everything else, like I don't know. But I've rewatched those movies so many times, so they're definitely up there. Maybe more of a kind of an older cult classic, be like Donnie Darko. Haven't watched it in a while, but I did really enjoy the movie. Maybe Fight Club I'll throw in there too.
Okay. There's respectable choices.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. How about a favorite musical artist?
Yeah, I'm a little all over the place when it comes to music. You know, long ago, I probably would have picked like something in the punk rock genre. You know, I'm not sure who exactly, but probably something like that. These days, I listen to a little bit of everything. One artist that stands out to me right now, I don't have one.
Okay.
I don't.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. What about, we talked about going on a bit of a road trip. You mentioned you've driven across the country.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite vacation spot?
No favorite vacation spot. I drove across the country to move actually. So and I've driven down like Highway 1 on the West Coast a couple times actually. I will say like Northern California or like Oregon. Like those are nice areas to hang out in for sure. Get a little bit of the redwoods or a little bit of the coast without all the hustle and bustle.
Okay. Yeah, I've never been out that way.
Yeah. No, it's nice. Yeah, definitely like what is it? Canyon Beach. That's in, I think it might be in Oregon. But yeah, it's a nice little small beach to check out sometime.
Okay. And I'm gonna put you on the spot here with this one. I've only asked Caesar this question, but I think it's just like a little funnier to poke and prod at people, see
Sure.
what they say with this one. If you had to pick, who is your favorite coworker?
My boss, Matt Benzel, obviously. My favorite, well, my least favorite would be Tristan.
Oh well, that's a given. I think
that's a joke, Tristan.
That goes without
That's a joke.
saying.
My favorite coworker, yeah. I mean, I'm here, you know, because of Benzel. So I guess it's my boss.
By default.
I guess it might
You've
actually
known
be.
him the longest too, probably, right?
Yes, I have.
Right.
Yeah, that obviously, yeah, we go back quite a ways now. So that's certainly a part of it. But I mean, honestly, I enjoy working with everyone. So how can you pick a favorite? It's like picking a favorite child or something. It's like, I don't know.
What I want to, we can kind of just get out of all that and move forward with this kind of subject matter. You are remote. You live up
Yes.
towards Cleveland,
Yeah.
in the Cleveland area. You come down here every once in a while when you guys need to have some meetings and things in office. But
Yeah.
what is it like being remote and then versus coming in office? Do you enjoy the remote lifestyle? Do you enjoy having the access to still come down to an office that's only an hour away, or have you navigated anything like that in the past with other jobs and things like that?
Yeah. Yeah. My last job is kind of when I made the switch from being full time in the office and for all previous jobs, to then being remote. And it started during COVID. Like many others. Um, the change was kind of tough. I mean, it wasn't at least natural. I was lucky enough. I was kind of set up at home to be able to work. I had like a small space to work at from home. I had like a monitor and things like that to do it. But yeah, I mean, for the first, couple of years, I would say it was kind of tough to not go in the office anymore after so many years. Like you go there, you have the people, and we were downtown with our office for a number of years as well. So you get that as well. But there are a lot of advantages.
Oh yeah, so many benefits
to being
yeah.
remote, of which the drive. I mean, so I've been doing, for 7 years, I drove from from the New Franklin area to downtown Cleveland. So 45 minutes, no traffic, typically an hour, twice a day.
Yeah,
that's a lot. It's a lot. It's the, just the wear and tear on your car, and then the time lost and trying to make room for everything else. Like it is tough. But I did it. And then eventually I moved to Cleveland. So then my drive went from like an hour to like 5 minutes, which was an incredible change. And this was, a couple years before COVID. So then the drive wasn't really a factor anymore. I still enjoyed being in the office. Then COVID happened. It's like, okay, well, I don't necessarily love working from home all the time, but there are perks, and I still like those perks today. I think one of the big things, and something that I feel is probably the most important thing to me now about being able to work remote, is just the flexibility in terms of where you can work. Like you could work for a company anywhere in the world now, or anywhere just in the United States even, as opposed to before, like unless you were there, like locally to this company, like the chances of you being able to work for them weren't great. But now, kind of COVID kind of forced our hands on some things and kind of opened up a bit more, to just be able to hire across borders. That's something that I mean, it's really nice.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
I agree. I think it's super interesting too, because I think early on we were DeliverThat specifically was all in house,
Yeah.
and over the years we've kind of had to adjust and hire some people out of office, like Catherine, Emily, the Matts, and that we have developers now in South America. So it's like you just kind of have to adapt to what the work style is, life is now. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think, I mean, to me, that's a good thing. It definitely has its challenges on either side of it, but just kind of being flexible, both from the company's perspective as well as from, like the employee's perspective. I think there's a good way to balance that out and kind of have the best of both. But it does take work though to make it work.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned moving from New Franklin to Cleveland.
Yes.
And I believe you've been in this area for a long time, but I don't want to assume anything. But where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, well, so I was born in Akron. I think Akron Children's Hospital or whatever. So I grew up in New Franklin. So at the time it was called Clinton.
Yeah.
Right, okay. And then so like born and raised, grade school, middle school, high school. And then, I went to the University of Akron for a while. I moved to Scottsdale, Arizona for a couple of years, one of those long road trips. And then I moved back here. And then back here, meaning in the Clinton or New Franklin, was there for several more years. And then eventually I moved to Cleveland, which is where I'm at now.
Hell yeah. What about growing up? What was your first job growing up?
My first job was, it was through the high school. So there was this program called TWE, which stood for Technical Work Experience. And it gave some students, kind of a selection of students, an opportunity to work with computers. Like that's the gist of it, at least. So the technical work was like networking and installing software, fixing stuff with the computers, everything from like simple things and maybe slightly more, involved things that you would have to be taught to know how to do.
That's super interesting. So your interest in software and computers was like very early on. Did you have an
Oh yeah.
interest like even earlier than that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, probably nine or 10 years
Wow.
old. Yeah. So I believe the first time I've ever used a computer was in like second grade. It was like an Apple IIe, and you did like the math game on there. It's like I have a faint memory of that, but that's kind of it. And then fast forward, maybe 3-4 years or whatever. I was aware of computers, and my uncle, who was kind of an electrical engineer, he had computers, and like being able to kind of use them a little bit with what he had gave me like my first real exposure, and at an age where I think it just kind of like it just caught fire with me, and it just never left.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And then you say you go to Akron. So
Yeah.
did you go to Akron for a software geared degree?
I wanted to, but so at the time, what I wanted to do was web design, or like web development, and this was, 2002, 2003, 2004. Like those programs just they weren't popular, and they just didn't really exist. So, Akron, the University of Akron didn't have anything like that. Kent did, but the transfer and lose all my credits and everything, it just didn't make sense, for a couple different reasons. So I ended up going kind of like a graphic design route, with like a mix of philosophy, try photography for a bit as well. But then, yeah.
That's interesting. So do you have the graphic design backbone still in you? You still
Oh,
play
yeah.
around with that kind of stuff?
Yeah. No, I think for so I've done plenty of coding over the years, but I've always kept like a full leg on like kind of the more creative side. And I'll just say it's like UI, UX, just kind of thinking about more than just how am I going to make it work, but what's going to feel like to use, what's it going to look like, so yeah, I think that in a sense is kind of an extension of like that graphic design time that I spent, in college. And then the photography as well. It's like the whole creative side, I think it's as important as the functional side.
Yeah. It's tough to disagree with. I appreciate you saying that. I think from your time at Akron then, and then leading into now, what's your anniversary is late January 2023. So we're well past your 1 year, almost getting into 2 years now.
Yeah.
So we're a little late on the record time, but we're getting it done. I appreciate you coming down to do this with me. But can you just briefly walk me through the work history and then how we get introduced to DeliverThat?
Yeah. So it's the short of it is it's Matt Benzel is how I got introduced, really. So I spent time at Onisys. The bulk of my career was actually of my like coding or web development career was at Onisys. And that's where I met Matt Benzel, and this was like more than 10 years ago. Actually more like 13 years ago now. So it's been a while. And so, yeah, we worked there very closely for years. And then, we both, over the past, 3-4 years or whatever, we both kind of parted ways with Onisys. And then I found, I've kept in touch with Matt and everything. And I kind of, honestly, it's just sort of serendipitous. It just sort of like I left Onisys at the same time that, Matt was starting to work with DeliverThat. At the same time that DeliverThat was like, okay, we're going to start building out a tech team. And here I am, able to kind of fill one of the gaps on the team. So, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, timing is everything sometimes.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing how it works out.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you kind of mentioned how we're just trying to build out the tech team when you get brought on. And something I thought was super funny to ask Benzel at the time was like what it looked like when he was brought on versus kind of what we're building to.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd pose a similar question to you.
Sure.
I know we are not don't have a ton of influence in like UI UX stuff at this moment in time. Yeah. But when you were first brought on, what was your, I guess, the expectations for what you're doing, and then what are you doing today?
Yeah. So I was brought on to kind of serve like a dual role. and which is a pretty common thing when you have a small team. So, it was Tristan, and then there was Benzel, and then there was me, and so on from there. So I was initially brought on to really just help build our dashboard, our merchant dashboard. And so that was the front end development of it. And that's really like my first year here was 90% focused on just building that dashboard, coding, rolling it out, and adding new features to it, and just kind of get that going, as well as just kind of help generally, with the tech team. We brought on more developers and all of that. So there's kind of some other things that go into that as well. But that was year one. So then right now I'm in year two. So I'm like, halfway through the year or whatever. And now I'm actually starting to focus on what my title is. So I'm director of product. And so I was actually really hired to do product or to do product management. And so most of this year I've kind of like flipped the other way now, where at the beginning of the year I was doing some coding still, but now these past 3-4 months, I think my coding's been nearly zero. And I've been really primarily focused on the product side and sort of, instead of building it myself or figuring out how to accomplish things, I help figure out what we should do and why we should do it. So talking with merchants or talking with drivers or talking with the people internally to figure out, what do we want? Why do we want it? Does that make sense to do? And then adding some definition to that, and then bring that to the rest of the team and to actually then build it.
So just like basically building like the roadmap to what you want.
Yeah. I mean, that's the popular way to think about it, is building a roadmap. I don't really think about it in those terms exactly. It is a roadmap, but I think it's really more about just sort of like keeping things moving right now. Like we're still so early in all this, kind of like what you were just mentioned before about sort of like what the platform looked like or what the tech looked like before versus after. I mean, there wasn't any tech before, basically. There was when I started already, because, Tristan and Benzel had already been working. But it's like you kind of started with nothing, and now we, today, it's hard to kind of quantify it, but basically there was nothing before, and now you have an entire platform that we're now able to start shifting the business to run on. And we have the ability to kind of adapt and do new things, and help ourselves do our jobs better, across the whole business. So, and then this is still kind of more like a starting point. It's like we've made a huge leap already, but we're still kind of closer to the beginning than we are to like the middle of the road or anything. So I think, roadmaps to me are kind of they're looking a little bit further ahead typically. And it takes a lot to build something like that. So right now it's really just about balancing between being reactive and being strategic, and just kind of keeping things moving forward, but also now having an eye down the road, because we have a good foundation. Now we can actually do something with it and build on top of that and start to bring what, imagine building a skyscraper. Okay. Imagine like how crazy that is to build, that the fact that humans can even do it. But the construction starts, and then maybe a year goes by before you actually have a structure that starts appearing. Yeah. And then eventually you're going into the building like it's always been there, and you don't even realize that before this was just literal air. Like, so you have to put in that foundation that goes deep into the ground and everything. It's like you don't really see all that, but it's incredibly important. And then you're able to build on top of that, and eventually, you or the outside world gets to see everything that's been done, even though you might not necessarily know just how much work went into it. So that's kind of where we're at right now, where that foundation is there. But we're just now starting to construct the building where there's something to see. And then over these next, years or whatever, we'll be able to take it and turn it into that like polished, shiny thing rising above the horizon.
Yeah, I think the foundation too, that's like the most critical piece.
Yes.
Like you can't continue to build vertical unless you are able.
Like that's number one.
Yeah.
That's number one. And so that's where our focus has been the last 2 years. And Benzel and Tristan's focus before I even started. And that'll continue to be the case for a little bit even, like, because as we add more, we might have to add more foundation as well. But we're definitely at a point now where we can start thinking about what is this building going to look like, and then actually do it.
And you kind of mentioned your year-old project, the restaurant dashboard.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about that, and not necessarily the maybe the functionality a little bit, but how it looks, how it's perceived by the restaurants and everything early on. But I thought from your vantage point, maybe I could ask, what were your expectations for how this was going to help restaurants moving forward, and what were your goals in building it for the restaurants?
Yeah. So, I mean, my goals largely came from, what Aaron and Benzel, were thinking at the time. When I came in, the basic idea was already established, and it was just give the merchants a way to send us deliveries. And so up to that point, it was through, these forms.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
which, and hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Anyone
it
had
works.
access to them.
Right.
Email.
Yeah.
No verification.
Things were, things were a bit loose, but it did work. And I mean, there's a lot of value in just having something that is functional. I definitely think when it comes to UX, it's like you want to go beyond just it's functional. But it did work, and it got the job done. But there were, maybe some challenges with that. And also, we had no control over those things for the most part. It's like, it's not our tech. Like,
Right.
we're using other tech to accomplish those kind of operational things. And so I think the real goal was just, let's kind of replace that, but keep it functionally the same so that the merchants have something new to be able to send us deliveries, and then add in things like authentication. So, like, we know who has access and all of that. And then to give, the merchants the ability to have some insight into what they're actually doing. Before, it was just the form. You submit it and then it's gone.
Poof.
You don't see it anymore.
You don't know
Now you can see what you submitted after you submit it. You can come back and see things that were submitted from other businesses, so through our integrated partners, like Olo, for example. So I guess goal one was, let's replace the existing functionality, and then let's make it let's make it a little bit better, like authentication and some other things. Then also, let's give the ability to the merchants to have those insights so they can actually see all their deliveries, for starters. And really, that's kind of it. Like, those were really the only goals initially. And so now, we kind of have that foundation, and now we're looking about, we're thinking ahead and kind of looking a little bit further down the road about, okay, now what's next for the dashboard.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I think it always felt like the wild west, like once you guys are coming in, and people were like, so like anyone has access to these forms, and like for like we never really even, like, that wasn't even like a question on our minds. Like, we never even were like, oh yeah, I guess like anyone could submit a delivery. Like, no, that wasn't even ever a thought process.
You got to start somewhere.
It was crazy. Crazy days. Crazy. Some Zoho forms out there for the people at home familiar. Those are wild times. The restaurant dashboard, I think it's been amazing. I think some of the features, like, you can see the submitted, canceled versus completed. You have the direct tracking link to your driver. Like you mentioned, you have the integration partners, EasyCater, Olo, Bring with Wegmans and all that stuff. So there's a ton of functionality. I think that it's been awesome to see get built. I know, I mean, like all things, it took a little bit of time, and it's kind of like a little pet project maybe of yours, but I feel like you gotta be proud of what you've been able to do.
Absolutely. I mean, it was great to be able to come in and, just my first months here were just completely focused on building and finishing building, and then launching the dashboard. And I mean, to be able to come into a new company and kind of within the first months, kind of accomplish something, or have, like, here's this project that we started, now it's done, it's out there, the merchants are actually using it. They're not that we haven't had we've had all kinds of feedback, and including things that, hey, could we make this change or whatever, but for the most part, it's been really well received. Everyone loves it. So it's like a great first 6 months, to kind of come in and be able to do that.
I feel like you produce value early
on. Right,
like,
exactly.
Right,
like,
you don't. I am here.
I would say that's probably not really typical. So that was really cool, and that was a first for me personally, to be able to just kind of walk in, day one, knowing what I'm doing, already doing it. And then within the first 6 months, have this new thing out there in the world, and it's helping the company, it's helping the merchants. Like, what more can you ask for?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And kind of now then we move on to what we're 6 months into year 2.
Yes.
I guess, well, 8 months now, I guess, technically.
Yeah.
Wild.
Somehow. I know.
Had to do that quick math in my brain. It's like, holy shit, it's
Christmas
August.
is next week.
Yeah. But you mentioned now you're kind of doing what you brought here to do, director of product.
Yes.
And building out a product specific to DeliverThat. Do you consider that product to be the DeliverThat driver app moving forward, or what is the DeliverThat product?
Yeah. So yeah, we're working on a new driver app. I guess that's like the year 2 big project. Year 1 was the dashboard, year 2 is the driver app. We are we're well on our way with building a new driver app, and it's kind of similar situation to the dashboard where we have some challenges. Things are functional, but we have some challenges. There are things that we think we would want to do later, but step 1 is kind of like building that foundation, and just kind of replacing it functionally or rebuilding it functionally so that we can do more later. And so we're kind of just on the cusp now of kind of wrapping up the project, and we're going to figure out how to roll it out and everything. It'll be done this year.
Hell yeah.
And this is like, kind of like with the dashboard, although we're a little bit further along with the dashboard, but this is like a beginning, really. It's like closer to the beginning than we are further down the road. So
yeah, and I think what we're kind of mentioning a handful of times here is like going from using third parties,
yes,
to integrate everything we're doing in house to now everything is just in house, first party.
Yeah,
we've developed it, we have access to it, we can make direct changes to it. We don't have to send emails like, hey, can you fix this, and this, and you don't get a response, or you do get a response, so they can't do it, this, that, and the third. It's like now we have direct access to the data, we have direct access to the changes and the fixes, and we can do what the restaurants ask of us, what the drivers ask of us, and we can continue to move forward.
Yeah. I mean, like you go from like being kind of a younger business to being a slightly more mature business, and you start off with things where it's just everything just has to work, and then that's the value. But when you kind of like lack control, you can't really. There's only so much that you can do. You can only react so quickly. And it really kind of hampers your ability to react, or to at least like react more efficiently, let alone to evolve. And so by building these things, first party, by kind of bringing the technology in-house, building out these foundations and starting to build up these different products, that lets us react better. But it also gives us, and this is the big thing, it lets us start evolving. It lets us start thinking about who we want to be, what we're going to be, what the products are going to be, and start maturing as a company and as a business overall.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Well, I'm very pleased that you've been brought along for the journey.
Me too.
I know we've spent some time out there on the road together, had some fun nights in Chicago and at other conferences, spent some time together. So I appreciate your time. I like when you're down here in the office, like seeing you guys. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming down, spending some time with me over here. If you ever need anything, let me know. We record some new restaurant dashboard videos.
Yes.
I know we got to record some new videos for the app coming out here.
We do.
So we're kind of getting that stuff rolling. So
we're about there.
Yeah, we'll see where we get going with all this content coming out with the new app.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you.